Hey, what's going on, you guys? This is Joseph Bonner, and welcome to today's show. We are going to be talking about 10 reasons why investors should back away from Twitter and Facebook. That's again 10 reasons why investors should back away from Twitter and Facebook. Now, we're going to go ahead and go through this list pretty quickly, as well as just kind of give you a little disclaimer here is that there is no paid promotion for this particular post, except the advertisements that we typically run on all of our shows. These are just the facts. It is what it is, period. Don't you got issues with it, come fight me. Because I'm going to tell you like it is. And we're extremely honest. If you are an investor with Facebook or Twitter, here's the reason why you need to back up, get your money, and run. Let's go ahead and start with number one, and let's talk about the company's transparency. From the jump, Facebook and Twitter both have been companies that have had many battles in the public eye, especially in the media eye. And mainly the reason why both of them have come under fire is because of the lack of transparency with how they use user information, how they use confidential information, how many actual users are even on the platform. They just had that whole little run. Twitter just had that whole run-in with Elon Musk about, them not being authentically honest about how many people are actually on the platform. And we saw how, Mark Zuckerberg, fared when he was before Congress and speaking on the transparency of his organization. And the reality is that both companies aren't being completely transparent. There's a lot of stuff that they're not telling the public. There's a lot of stuff that they're not even telling the government. Let's just be honest. And these are just the facts. And because of that, as an investor, if you are putting your money and stock into a company that's not being 100% transparent, when the ball starts rolling downward and everything starts spiraling downward hill, because of their lack of transparency, you're going to be the one, stuck with the cost of that. And who needs that? Especially with business being the way it is now. There's a global recession. Who can afford to lose money now, especially in something as non-important as social media? So transparency of both organizations is really in ill dispute. Run while you still can. All right, let's talk about number two, and let's talk about discrimination. We know that what's become trending over the past couple of years is, inclusiveness, being, having inclusion. You have people now with positions. I'm an inclusion officer, right? And so our job is to include everybody from every background and everything because, we're inclusive. But let's be honest, despite having these, individuals in these positions of, let's call it inclusion managers, both companies are still perpetuating discrimination across the board. We're talking about discrimination against users of color who use their platform, as well as the experience of these users. Many of these users of non-Caucasian descent have spoken of disparaging responses from Twitter and Facebook on how their posts are being reported for non-violations or just for speaking up and saying, hey, racism isn't right, and they're getting put into Facebook jail, or their Twitter accounts are getting suspended for quote unquote violating rules of speaking against racism and discrimination. It's absolutely ridiculous. And there's some other factors I want to get into in the discrimination, but we're going to actually cover that in a few points when we get to the verified. So again, as an investor, do you really want to be behind a company who is constantly caught up in battles against discrimination and who are known publicly to have stifled the voice of those of color and of those of ethnic descent, and these are not small reports that you can just Google search, just the lawsuits that both companies have been involved in, and the accusations that have been heard at both companies in regards to discrimination. And as an investor, you'll be able to see, it's probably not a wise investment to invest in Twitter or Facebook. If you think that's bad enough, let's go on to number three, and that's talking about user bias. Now, when we talk about user bias, we're talking about specifically, when you're a user and using a platform, the platform is going to be catered towards a certain demographic or towards a certain, genre. And, that's typically how it is with anything that we use. We expect it to be catered towards a specific something, right? However, what users are experiencing is a bias in these platforms. And so if you don't meet a certain demographic or you don't meet a certain target market, then this platform is not for you. And your experience with this platform is going to be either altered by algorithms or quote unquote automated algorithms, which aren't really automated fully. Some of them are very strategic. So, I don't think Mark Zuckerberg at Congress said, oh yeah, a lot of it's just, automatic. It's the system. Like, yeah, but that system was programmed. So let's not forget that. So these systems have been programmed to, again, limit how some users experience the platform while enhancing how others experience the platform, which goes back again to point number 2, which is discrimination. Again, as an investor, do you want to be encouraging or even involved and have your money spent in a platform that perpetuates bias? I mean, you could, but when things start hitting the fan and lawsuit starts coming to the forefront, again, you'll be the loser on that. Then you'll want it to be set. Then you'll want to sell, and then the price will be so low you'll end up losing all this money. I mean, who needs it right now, right? All right, number 4, let's talk about also their political involvement. Twitter and Facebook have both been very actively politically involved. And, I'm a person who's politically neutral. I don't take sides in politics. What I will say is the danger of having companies involved in politics means that, obviously it's going to dictate what they allow and what they allow to be said on their platform. And in a sense, they become law because it's their platform, right? And you can ban somebody saying, oh, it's just an internal policy, when it could literally be that they just don't agree with you. Now, as a politically neutral person, I don't comment on politics, but when you have a platform like Twitter and Facebook who are extremely politically involved, it does become something of a concern for investors who are looking for, obviously you want to make money, and I get in politics is business. Let's be honest, politics is business. However, when you have a platform that starts to dictate politics in business, you're opening up yourself for lawsuits because that's technically against the law, So if you are an investor and you're putting your stock and your money in an organization that is politically involved and that has yet to receive the full force of the law as of yet, because no one's really come for them completely yet. But when that does happen, and I will say, mark my words, when that does happen, you as these investors who've been backing these companies are going to be the losers in the end. Trust and believe me when I say that these governments will come for these platforms. That's a guarantee. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when that does happen, if you decide to sell then, you're going to lose all this money. So if you're a smart investor, you'd back away now. It's just like a no-brainer, right? For those of you guys who deal with billions of dollars and millions of dollars, you should already know it's a no-brainer. Back away. Now, if that's not enough, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about another reason why investors should back away from Twitter and Facebook. And we're talking about advertisement. Now, there's a lot more users, at least quote-unquote users, on Facebook than there are on Twitter. But when we're talking about advertising, Facebook is really not completely transparent with their advertising tactics. And what I mean by that is you can hop on the platform and you can, say, I'm going to spend this much money on ads and this much money on ads, but they've changed the way those ads sell. They've changed the way those ads appear. They're constantly changing their platform so that people who use it and who get comfortable using it are having to constantly adjust, and they know what I'm talking about, which means it's making it more fair for the business, and obviously people are losing more money by investing in advertising, which is why that company overall is also losing money because they're not being as honest with their ad strategies as they were when they first started. And I can speak from personal experience on that as well. Now, in regards with Twitter and advertising, Twitter, you don't really have too many ads issues with Twitter. But what I will say is that if you were to advertise using Twitter, again, they want you to use. Actually, matter of fact, I will say this because Twitter's advertising, they try to push you into a situation where you have to advertise just to promote your business. When back in the old days, you could actually just hop on a hashtag and it would kind of do some advertising for you. But they've kind of changed the way feeds appear, things. Your particular feed would appear and how people respond to you. They're doing it. And I'm going to tell you why they're doing it. They're doing it because they want to make the money. So they don't want you to make money unless they can charge you to grow your audience. And so The reason why I'm saying this is an issue now, because back in the days, you could advertise for a fraction of a cost and reach such a large audience before. And even on Twitter, you could not even necessarily even need to spend money on advertising to be able to reach a larger audience. And now that's just not possible unless you invest a lot more, because they've changed the structure of their system to make sure that you have to put in a lot more money to do this. Well, why is that an issue for Why is that an issue for investors? Because obviously, if people are becoming dissatisfied with how your advertising tactics are working, and they see that you're changing the rules of engagement each and every time they turn around, people are not going to trust the brand as much, and they're going to look for other places to advertise. I mean, even Google's having this issue right now where people aren't advertising as much on Google anymore. They're advertising still on Google, just not as much, because they're changing the rules of engagement. And you can only do people wrong so many times before they say, you know what, forget you. I deal with a lot of business professionals all the time, and they're saying, I will never pay for advertisement. It's not because they can't pay for it, but they got the money to do it, but they're just so tired of how people are always changing the rules of engagement so that they become off the winners in the end. So when you do that to people enough, people will eventually just cut you off. Now, if you're an investor and you're looking for a company that's going to grow, that's truly going to grow, and that's scaling that growth, then you're going to want a company who's being authentic and honest with people across the board and not changing the rules of engagement already so well in to their own monetary advantage, while giving their customers or their users the short end of the stick. If you do that, you're not going to have great company engagement. People are going to start leaving the platform, and that's what's happening with both platforms. And so if you're an investor, you need to be paying attention to these warning signs and run while you still can. Get out. Now let's talk about number 6, because I think number 6 is actually probably a really, really important one, and that's tech trends. Now, tech trends, what's trending right now, what's hot right now? I'll be honest with you right now, Facebook and Twitter, they're not hot as they used to be, because, TikTok has come along, and TikTok has changed the rules of engagement. TikTok has changed the rules of engagement for advertising. They changed the rules of engagement for networking, for really all things. Because Facebook is trying to catch up, Twitter is not even trying. Facebook's trying to catch up. They're trying to compete. They're just doing a really bad job at it. And Twitter's not even trying at all. And this is one of the reasons why only old people really use Facebook, myself included. Like, I use Facebook and TikTok. But I think I have 18,000 followers on TikTok right now, and I think I have like 52,000 on Facebook. But I'm gonna be honest with you, TikTok is way more. The engagement on TikTok is way better than the engagement on Facebook, and I'm noticing the trend as well. And I barely use TikTok, and I say barely use. I think I use TikTok maybe 3 times a week at most, and I'm on Facebook like every day. But I'm on Facebook every day because I'm comfortable with it. But I get way better engagement on TikTok. So eventually my transition is going to be there. And I think you need to. So if you're an investor, you want to make sure that you're hopping on these trends. You don't want to pick up these trends when they're already gone. Facebook's not competing with TikTok. They can't. They're not doing a good job because they don't know how to. Again, it's an older platform. Remember who built it? Mark Zuckerberg. He's old now. He's not young anymore. He's not hip. So if you want to, as an investor, stay on top of the trends, the tech trends especially, you need to go with the younger generation. That's just a given. That's just a no-brainer. So if you're an investor, this would be probably the wisest time to pull out of Twitter and Facebook and start looking for these newer tech industries who are more catered towards the younger audience, because obviously those younger ones are going to grow up, and that's going to be where your big bang's going to come in. You want the kids who need the McDonald's and the fast food and the and the new shoes. Old people, we don't care about that stuff like that. Kids love that stuff. They eat that stuff up. So as an investor, you want to be where those trends are, the tech trends are, because those tech trends are going to produce more revenue, and you're going to end up the winner instead of the loser if you stay with Facebook and Twitter. Now let's go on to number 7. Number 7, the reason why investors do want to back away from Facebook and Twitter is their verified procedures is garbage. And I'm going to speak from personal experience. Garbage. And when you start to lose trust in the verified procedure of a company, because they're saying, oh, this company or this person is trusted and verified by us. But when you start to verify soccer moms, kid you not, soccer moms and some musical artists you never heard of with 12,000 followers, or some journalists with 5,000 followers that no one knows. I'm just being honest, right? you lose credibility as a brand. So Facebook, Twitter, you guys have lost credibility I don't trust who you verify. And here's the thing, and this is not personal. This is not just personal, because I host more nationally syndicated radio shows than anybody on planet Earth. Guaranteed. I host and produce more nationally syndicated shows than anybody on Earth as we speak. And these shows are growing on a weekly basis. But even still, then, and even though I have 52,000 followers on Facebook and what I think is like 16,000 followers on like Twitter, neither one of those platforms will verify me. In part because I'm black, and the second part is because I'm doing a lot more than their white counterparts are doing. And so there's again, like, they're verifying white soccer moms who have like 3,000 followers, and like non-relevant artists who like 3,000 followers. So is this like a white club verification process, or is this like a verified, like genuinely authentic people who should be verified? So again, that goes back to the discrimination and the user bias we were talking about in points number 2 and 3. Their verified process is absolute garbage, meaning that you can't trust the companies. And so obviously, if you're an investor, and you're dealing with people who are fraudulently just verifying everybody, and I say fraudulently because if you can't verify that these people are really noteworthy, you're just verifying them just because they're white or they're your color. Yeah, I call that fraudulent. I call it what it is. Yeah, you want to back away from that. Now, if you're still with me, let's go ahead and let's go to number 8. And we're going to talk about the user experience. Now, what people are seeing when they're using Facebook and Twitter is they're getting their feeds. You see your feeds and you see what's on your wall. However, because the user experience is always constantly shifting, their algorithms are changing deliberately because they've been programmed to do that. You're not getting a chance to engage with people who really mean the most to you, especially on Facebook. And even within regards to Twitter, you're not engaging with your audience, the ones who you really, really want to see. You're seeing all these other extra accounts who you like. How did I even start following you? Like, to be honest, I don't think I followed all these people. And so the user experience on both platforms is becoming a little bit dull, and it's just really inundated with just garbage, a collection of garbage, unfortunately, which is why people are starting to leave these platforms. I'm going to tell you the only reason why I still use these platforms, and to these investors out there, I use these platforms just because of the SEO. Honestly. When you do the SEO for Google, these platforms will show up with my brand. That's the only advantage it has at this point. But, that's it. But I use a lot of other companies for SEO as well. But as far as making money and really having a lasting impact, Twitter nor Facebook falls into that category. They don't. I would tell you which company that I do rock with, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to. This is not a promotion of another company, so that's a whole nother episode. This is just letting investors know why you need to pull out right now. If you are with Facebook and Twitter, run, get your money and run. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to point number 9. Let me see. I would say more of a detachment from, here it is. Yeah. I would say it's more of a detachment from reality. I just feel like the experience that you're having right now with a lot of these platforms is that they're not really giving users what they need in terms of just overall support. Like, I'll give you an example. When the whole COVID-19 thing hit, you had a lot of notifications coming out from the CDC. You had the governments trying to help people out, bail people out with PPP loans and all this. You had things working to really help people kind of get through and navigate through everything that they were facing. The realities of what people were facing. Neither one of these social media platforms provided any kind of an outlet for what people were facing. And even with COVID-19, what I think all Facebook did would say was, for COVID-19 updates, you should look at the CDC. That was it. That's how they help people. That was it. And Twitter didn't even do that. So they're not really providing people what people need right now. And I think, people need help. They need support. They need to know where jobs are. They need to know where resources are for their families when things get difficult. They need mental health resources. These are not things that the Facebook or Twitter are providing for users. It's mainly entertainment and some of it not good entertainment at all. And they're not doing a great job even at entertaining, So if you want to see what companies doing that, again, go to TikTok. Again, that's not the one I prefer, but still go to TikTok nonetheless, because TikTok is doing a lot better job at entertaining. So again, because I feel like there's a detach from reality, a detach from what people really need. I think people are using Facebook and Twitter right now just because it's kind of the same reason why I use it. Number one, SEO for the older people, and then number two, it's just there. They're comfortable using it, but again, the trends are already shifting, and so people are already hopping off, and you even have some of the older ones hopping on TikTok right now, because they're saying that it's more trending, it's more engaging. So if you're an investor, obviously you want to, I know people are loyal. You're loyal to a brand, you're loyal to a company. I get it. You've been with them for a while. You think, okay, maybe this will turn around. It's not. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm letting you know. They're going down. Facebook and Twitter both will go down. Guaranteed. Like, that's a guarantee. And the only reason why I can say that with a certainty is because I'm looking at the way that they're, all of the things that we're mentioning on this list. In addition to that, you're looking at the platform as it is today. All the changes that they're making, that they say they're making for improvements, are actually making the systems worse. I'm so sorry. I really have no idea who's programming this garbage. But anyways, so like, if you're a genuine investor and you're really trying to make sure that you're putting your money where it needs to be, it's not Facebook and Twitter. Like I said, you need to run and head for the hills and find something more trending that's going to last a little bit longer than these platforms, because they are going down. They are going down. And don't get it mistaken. Don't think just because you got all these media outlets using them that somehow no. Media outlets use them for the same reasons everybody uses them. It's just a different way to engage with people. You get the SEO. You're able to reach a certain amount of audience maybe that you wouldn't never necessarily reach. You can draw traffic to your website, all that stuff. So they're using it for those basic reasons. But the realities are still present, is that people are leaving these platforms because of all of the things that I mentioned in the list. And so if you're an investor, again, you don't want to be behind the trends. You want to really be on the trends, and even sometimes, obviously ahead of the trends. So this is why you need to really pull out now while people are just beginning to figure this out. Like, you watch. If you don't do it, I'm telling you, you're going to wish you had listened to this episode. You're like, oh, should have. Oh, well. All right. Last but not least, number 10, the reason why investors need to back away from Twitter and Facebook, like right now, before it's too late, and here's the reality. You ready for it? Here is the hardcore, deathly reality. I say death of a brand reality. Is you guys got to understand that there are some brands that have been around for a really, really long time. Like Coca-Cola. That's a drink. Everybody loves Coca-Cola. We love drinking. McDonald's has been around for thousands, right? Thousands of years. You get what I'm saying, right? It's a food. It's a service. It's something that's quick. It's fast. It's still extremely affordable. So people are easily going to it. It's easily accessible. The internet has been around for a long time. Even the internet has been around for a long time, right? Since like the 80s or whatever, right? And through this time, as the internet has been here, you had all these platforms that used to be popular, like remember AOL and all these other things. And we don't hear AOL anymore. Oh, you got mail, because they didn't keep up with the trends, and somebody who was better at it took over. And all those investors who hung on to the last moment were the losers in the end. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. So you may think, oh, right now we're just kind of hanging in there. Yeah, but if you wait until it goes sour, that's when you lose. Like, you can't wait till it starts to go sour, because then no one's going to want your stock. You need to do it now before it's already going downhill. I'm just letting you know. So like, you need to make sure that you do it now before. And again, that goes back to number 10, is that Facebook and Twitter, unfortunately, do not have the longevity I guess the skills and the resources and the assets to even have that longevity. They just don't have them. They just don't possess them, for all of the things that we mentioned before. And mark my words, if you don't get out, you're going to wish you did. And for Facebook and Twitter, and you guys know, and y'all know, y'all were warned ahead of time. Before I even did the show, you guys were warned. You guys had a chance to get your little selves together, and you didn't. So you know what? This on you. You should have listened to the suggestions that were provided to you and the suggestions were provided to you for free. Like, no one charged you anything, and you didn't listen. So now this is the time to give your investors a warning. Run! You ever see that old episode of what was it? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, when Uncle Phil was coming down the stairs making all this noise, and then Will Smith looks at the camera and says, "Run!" If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you guys need to look that up because it's absolutely hilarious. So I'm telling investors right now, you invest in Twitter or Facebook. I'm not meaning to laugh at you. I'm so sorry. Be serious. You need to run now, or else it's going to be laughable when everything hits the fan and you're still there with all that lost money. That being said, you guys, I'm your host, Joseph Bonner, and until next time, take care of each other and save your money. And don't waste it. Again, on Facebook and Twitter, like, get out while you can. All right.